Okay, today we're going to start on Lamed Daled. Lamed Daled Amud Beis. It's 3 lines from the bottom. Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to recite it every day. In the schus of a learning, we should have the base of Mikdash immediately. Learning the Linishma, Sabbath, called the Basra Daf, and Sal Ben Mitzian, and also for first time with Daf Ben Sarah, and for Gedalia Gatzel, Yazar Ben. Okay. So the Gemara starts out like this: Zer Mishal Avaisa, Zer Mishal Avaisa. There's 2 people that are arguing about either a property or a boat, and they don't have a chazaka. They weren't there for 3 years. So each one's claiming that it belonged to his father. So Amar of Nachman says, Kol Dalam Gvar. Whoever is stronger wins. Alam means strong. In Aramaic, Alam means strong. In Hebrew, the word alma, or with an ayin, means youthful, which also means strong. So like the Rivka, it says Batered ha'alma, the girl went down. The Christians say it means a virgin, but in Aramaic it means strong or youthful. So called the alam, it's the same word, ayin and alam. Christians say that the virgin birth is because it says alma. It means youth. Okay, so called Olam Guvar, whoever is stronger wins. Now the Rashbam before said stronger. What do you mean stronger? What are they going to do? So the Rashbam said before in the Rashbam called Olam Guvar, he said Bein Barayas Bein B'Koyach. Whether he's stronger either because he brings stronger proofs, or he's stronger because he has bigger muscles, and he was able to wrestle the other guy out of the property. Now, so discussion here. Reb Naftali in the Rush, if you have in the back of your traditional Gemara in the Rush, and my Gemara is page 368, but it's the Rush and Cheskas Sabatim number Chaf Beis. Chaf Beis in the Rush. You see where it says Zer Mishal Avaisa?
Yes.
So he says, Hi Kol Dalam Gvar Dinahu, the Kol Misha Gavar Yada B'Pam Rishenu Shalai Ad Shevi Chaver Raya. The Rush here is saying is that Kol Dalam Gvar only works once. After they wrestle it out, the first guy that wins, he gets it. And unless the other person can bring 100% proof, which would be like a court case type of thing, then it stays by the first person that wins this fight. He goes further. He says, it doesn't make sense that the sages should institute that every day this one wins, the next day this one wins. It's like this constant fight that they're going to have because called Alam Bar. The one that whoever's stronger wins, and every day there's going to be a different owner to the property. And he says that it makes sense that the person that's really he's going to be meiser nefesh to make sure that he actually gets it.
Yeah. And
if it's not really his, he's going to say, "Why should I risk my life? The other guy's going to find this proof, and he's going to get me out of here. So I'm not going to. It's a bad investment." So basically, according to the Rush, it only works once. This called Dalam Gvar. They have a challenge. Duel, and then the guy that gets the property.
What's he saying? That the one who really thinks it's his will fight the hardest?
Will fight harder.
Uh-huh.
And then that becomes the psak.
If you have someone like Yosef versus me, Yosef automatically is going to win. Even if I fight with all my strength, he's double or triple the size.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. Ellie's saying, but 1 second, if there's one guy very strong, another guy is not so strong, the other guy's gonna win like say, easily.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
The Giants will take over.
The Gemara asks, right?
Might make strike.
The Gemara asks that 1 second, we don't say Kol Dam Gvar. It's very unique that we're gonna say Kol Dam Gvar. So usually we'll say like Yachlaiko or something, like we say in the first parak of Bab Metzia, when they're fighting over the talus, we said that you divide it. Anyway, the Gemara asks right away, what's the difference between this case where Reb Nachman says that we say Kol Dalam Gvar, whoever's stronger wins. Gavar means to overpower. And the case of Shnei Shtaris, 2 documents. Now, the case of two documents is a Gemara in Ksubas, which talks about that we have a field and it belongs to Reuven. And Reuven writes a document that he's giving the field to Shimon, and he writes another document that he's giving the field to Levi. Both of those documents are written on the same day. And which means no one has more strength over the other one. What do we do with this field? Each one is pulling out a document that says that Reuven gave it to them, and it says the same day in it. Now, we don't have the hour in the document. It doesn't say which hour. It just says the day. So if both of them say the same day, then each one has exactly the same strength. Now, let's say there were witnesses that say when the documents were written, and we have one that says that it was written in the morning, one that was written in the afternoon. So we would actually know which one was earlier. So nevertheless, we would say that it's exactly the same thing. Now, the reason for this is as follows. According to there's a machlekes Reb Meir and Rabbi Elazar. If Eidei Masira Karti or Eidei Chasima Karti, what's the main part of a document? But what is it, the signatures that are in the document, or is it the witnesses that testify that the document was handed over to the other person? Is it the transferring of the document, the Masira, or is it the Chasima, or is it? So in other words, we're on page Lamed Hey on the top, the first word. So if you say that it's Eidei Chasima Karti, that means that whatever the document says, whatever the document can attest to, that's the strength of this document. And the witnesses are signing in this document. The strength of this document is whatever it's attesting to. So since in the document itself, it doesn't say the hour, it only says the day, which means that the act of what really takes place here, that the property is transferred from Reuven to Shimon or from Reuven to Levi, it doesn't say that in the document itself. So therefore, the document can't do that. So the only thing the document can do is can transfer it for the day, which means at the very end of the day, the property is transferred to both of them. So according to this, Rav says, Rav Amar Yachleiku. Rav says that you have to divide it. Now, the reason that this property that's given from Reuven, it's given to Shimon and it's given to Levi, why do you divide it? So it's not because of a doubt. It's because they both actually acquired it at exactly the same. Sometimes you say Yachleiku. Well, we don't know what to do. Split it in half, right? Here, it's not splitting it in half because we don't know what to do. It's splitting it in half because they're partners. It's not a doubt. It's because the acquisition of this takes place at exactly the same time for both of them. That would be if Rav is following the opinion of Rabbi Meir that holds Eidei Chasima Karti, that the signatures in the document is what creates this transfer. And since the document doesn't have hours in it, so it all takes place all at the same time. Whatever the document is attesting to is how the document works. However, there is another opinion, and that opinion is the opinion of Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar holds that it's not what's written in the document, that it's not the signatures in the document that make it work. It's the transfer of the document from the giver to the recipient, and that we have witnesses for, and maybe that took place at a different time. The only thing is here, they don't know when it took place. We asked the witnesses, they don't know. But really, it did take place. Really, there, over now, according to that opinion of Rabbi Lazar, there really is one owner here. We just don't know who it is. The witnesses don't remember. They were handling two documents. They didn't remember which one was first. So Shmuel says, Shuda Dedaini. Shmuel says that the judge can call the shots. He can throw it to whichever way he feels would be correct. Now, the Rashbam learns Shuda Dedaini says that he takes a look and he says, 1 second, this is a mother-in-law and a son-in-law. Nah, she never would have given it to him or something. What's the most logical to have given the gift? Oh, someone that was giving a gift to someone, like the judge has to use his own estimation of which one would be the most logical. That's the way the Rashbam learns. You see, if you look at the Rashbam, he has to analyze what would they call this, like circumstantial evidence or proof that who he would give it. There's no proof. This is not a proof. But anyways, the judge, we have a doubt. So he can use other things which usually would not be upheld in court. That's not the way Rabbeinu Tam learns in Tosfos. Rabbeinu Tam learns, you see the Tosfos Shuda Dedaini. Rabbeinu Tam l'mish yirtza dayan litin. Shuda Dedaini means the judge can do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to analyze. He can just flip a coin wherever he wants to go. He can just decide on like that. So a major difference here. Shmuel doesn't tell me what Shuda Dedaini means. The Rashbam explains what Shmuel means when he says Shuda Dedaini, and Rabbeinu Tam explained what Shmuel means when he says Shuda Dedaini. See, Shmuel said the words Shuda Dedaini. Shuda Dedaini means that the judge throws it. Now, what does he mean he throws it? Now we have the Rashbam's prat, means he figures it out based on circumstantial evidence, Rabbeinu discretion. And the Rabbeinu Tam says that it's his own discretion. He could just do whatever he wants. Yeah, so in Shmuel's words, we have two interpretations of what it means. Basically, if one way of learning this Gemara right here is that Rav would follow Rabbi Meir that says that when Rav says Yachleiku, it's because we don't have any doubt over here. It's because we're following Eidei Chasima Karti. And when this transaction takes place, it's both of them together at the end of the day, right before the day ends. And that's when the property is transferred. And Shmuel would go like Rabbi Lazar, who holds Eidei Masira Karti, where actually one of them actually got it earlier. We just don't know who it is. And so therefore the judge can do that. It's a very nice way of learning. And that's the way the Gemara learns it in Ksubas in the first interpretation there. However, there is a second interpretation there, which does it differently. The oh really? I assume that these two are the main ones. Now, there's a second opinion over there in the Gemara. What comes out, according to this way of learning, is that when the Gemara asks, what's the difference in the two documents that have come out in the same day? So we're asking really, according to Shmuel, that says Shuda Dedaini, why does Rav Nachman say by us Zer Mishal Avaisa or Zer Mishal Avaisa? It would only belong to one of them, right? And we just don't know which one it is. So one case we have called Olam Gvar, we let them fight it out. In another case we have Shuda Dedaini, the judge that makes a decision, which is a very different outcome. So what the Gemara is asking, why does Rav Nachman say here called Olam Gvar, and why does Shmuel say in that case? It would be a question from Rav Nachman versus Shmuel. And Rav would be explaining it totally different. The question over here would not be from Rav. There's another way of explaining this Gemara, that the question is also from Rav. And then we would say, in order to do that, we would say a second version of the Gemara in Ksubas, that Rav is not following Rav Meir. Rav is also following Rabbi Elazar. Yachleiku is really because of a doubt. And we have a doubt over here. And what's the difference from Meir and Rabbi Elazar? If the transaction is taking place in middle of the day, according to Rabbi Elazar, the transaction is taking place in the middle of the day when the document is transferred. Even though it doesn't say an hour in the document, what it says in the document is not as significant. It's the transfer of the document that's significant.
So that's still referring to like an object like a boat that you can't actually carry to make a kingdom?
Yeah. If it would be something that was in their hands, it would be a different story. Yeah. Whoever was holding it, we would divide it based on that. Remember with the talis. Okay.
Why don't they just like extend it up? Sometimes they do, but just like make the whole thing longer, and then the one that sticks to it is the actual owner.
What would that mean? Like Kaldal Bar?
I don't know. It's also they do that. They just like prolong the whole like
Process.
the whole process, and then whoever sticks to it is the actual owner. Because if they divide it, half of it is going to the wrong person.
Yeah, so not according to one way of learning. Half of it is going to the wrong person. Right.
So in Gittin, the important thing is the delivery of the get.
Yeah, that was Rabbi Elazar. Right.
Yeah. So is that the same idea?
Exactly. The only thing is that we're not, you see, in Gittin, the main thing is the delivery of the get, but the validity of the document is what we're discussing. We're discussing the witnesses that are signing on the document. Do they validate the document? Or is the document acceptable without witnesses signed on it? It's the witnesses that observe the transfer of it that are the main witnesses. Yeah, it's the same concept, but everyone agrees that she needs to receive the document.
Right.
The question is, what creates the document, though? What makes the document a valid document? So Hill is bringing out something else. Hill's asking that why don't we just prolong the court case? And similar to what we find by the Sota, we wanted to get her to admit. We just stretch it out longer. We walk her around the base of Mikdash till she'll admit. But yeah,
because like that is not like in the judge's hand. You can make the wrong thing because it's cutting the cups for grabs.
Yeah, it's not a perfect system, but one guy has work, the other guy doesn't have work. He doesn't mind sitting in the courthouse every day,
And would they take like presidents into account if this guy is like does this every day, just battles things out with people?
So that would go under the shoot of the Daini. That would be his. The judge gets to decide what he feels is correct. Okay. So the Gemara answers the difference between Rav Nachman and Shmuel, or possibly even Rav as well, depending on how we learn this Gemara. Taisus discusses all of that I mentioned in the Taisus Rav. The Gemara answers, Hassam, when it comes to the two documents, it's impossible to determine which one is correct. And therefore, we're not concerned about making a psak, because no one's ever going to come back and say, Besdin, you got it wrong. Because we have a question of when the transaction took place, and it's impossible to determine when that really took place, because there is no way of determining. It took place during the day, and the witnesses don't even know. Witnesses don't know, so there's no one else that's going to tell us. So therefore, we don't have any problem making a psak. But when it comes to us, we're able to determine. So what do you mean we're able to determine? It's possible that witnesses are going to come and say that it belonged to this guy's father, or we're going to get witnesses that say it belonged to that guy's father, because the whole world could be witnesses, not just a witness of like when the document was handed over, where we have two witnesses and we asked them and they didn't know. No,
like their opinion sort of.
So what the Gemara is saying here is that when we say, at least according to the Rashbam, when we say Kol Dalim Dvar, is a way of saying that we're not getting our hands dirty. We'll let you figure it out. It's instead of Kol Dalim Dvar being a psak, it's the opposite of a psak. It's not doing a verdict. We're saying we're stepping out of this and you guys decide.
I feel like it should be what Hillel was saying, like there should be some questioning. Oh, what's the serial number of this?
Right.
What's the color of that?
Right. So here, when it comes to Zemer Shalavosai, that could possibly be determined, because people someone who's going to show up and say, I remember that it belonged to him and I remember that he lived there. That's possible. So therefore, if the Bevdin's going to get involved and then they're going to come later and say that was the wrong psak, that's not going to be correct. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we're not paskening. We're going to wait until we find out more information. And so meanwhile, what's going to happen? Yeah. Meanwhile, what's going to happen is you guys will fight it out. But when it comes to something where we'll never be able to determine later on, so then the Besdin will actually make a psak. That's how the Gemara just answered this here. The Gemara says, well, I have another case where we'll never be able to determine. And or actually, we have a case where we will be able to determine. And we don't say Kol Dalim Dvar, right? Usually it is. Okay, so the Gemara says like this: what's the difference between what it says in the following Mishnah, which we learned in Bava Metzia as well? It says Hamachlef para b'chamar v'yalda. This was a case where there's an exchange going on between an owner of a cow and an owner of a donkey. The owner of the cow is acquiring a donkey, so he just pulls the donkey, and that's how he acquires it. Now, at the moment that the owner of the cow pulls the donkey, the cow is transferred over to the owner of the donkey.
So they switch.
It's a switch. It's an exchange. Now, the cow gives birth. And when they show up later at the people that are involved with the donkey. The owner of the cow pulled the donkey. Where's the cow? It's back at home. But at the moment when he pulls the donkey, that exchange takes place. The cow is now transferred over, even though the cow is not in our presence. Now the cow gave birth. Now we don't know if it gave birth before the owner of his original owner pulled the donkey, or it gave birth after. So who owns the offspring? Depends on the timing. Who owns the offspring? We don't know. So we've said over there. It says, and the same thing as if someone acquires a maidservant. Now, a maidservant is acquired with money, which means that the maidservant doesn't need to be here. There's a transfer of money from one hand to the other.
That's what we do.
And then the maidservant is acquired. And then we said the halacha is yachlaiku, that you divide it. Who said that? Sumchus, right? We're following the opinion of Sumchus there, that says you divide it. Now, the problem here is like this, that theoretically, someone could turn up and tell us that I was there when the cow was giving birth, and it was at this and this time. It's possible that we will be able to find out. So when we say yachlaiku, we're not actually, we're not following the rule that we said before. The rule that we just said in the last answer, the Gemara's answer, is that any time someone may turn up and tell us that the way you paskin was incorrect, then we don't want to paskin. We just abstain from making any verdict. So why don't we do that over here? Someone may turn up and say, I was there when the maidservant gave birth. I was there when the cow gave birth. So the Gemara answers, yeah, we had a cleaning lady that was from the islands, one of the islands, and anyway, she was telling my wife about how it works over there, how the women give birth. It says if you're poor, then you just give birth alone without anyone. If you're rich, you can pay someone to yell at you and say push, push. They have to hire. I mean, okay, so it could be theoretically someone was there, and was there when they gave birth, either the maidservant or the cow, and they're going to turn up and they're going to tell us what happened. And if they tell us what happened, then why did we make a psak? We should have said kol dalam gvar, like Rav Nachman says by Zemer Shalavasai.
Both cases it has to be a public because if it's
Yeah,
private,
that's
then
correct. That's correct. Hillel is adding in from the comments that it says in the Rashbam that it's talking about with the Gemara over there in Parak Shayel asks, let's see in whose property it gave birth, because then it's going to be a muhsik, right? One person would be the assumed owner, and then another person would be the Maitzimei Chaverik. So the Gemara over there answers that it's talking about that it's standing in the meadow where no one, it's no man's land. Okay. The Gemara answers Hasam Lahai Islay Jar de Mamaina, Lahai Islay Jar de Mamaina. Hacha Idamar Leidamar, Idamar Leidamar. Okay, so the Gemara says like this, that let me take a look at how they translate Jordan Mamaina. Jordan Mamaina is machlekes between Rashi and Taisvis. Yeah. So it says like this: each litigant's claim to the offspring stems from the undisputed fact that he owned its mother at some time, the seller prior to the sale and the buyer after it. The question is only during whose term of ownership the mother gave birth. Since each one's ownership of the mother is undisputed, each is said to have a clear-cut claim to the disputed offspring. This fact compels the court to impose a settlement rather than withdraw from the case and allow one of them to seize the property by force. In other words, each one has a real claim. That's what's going on. Each one has a claim with a backing to it. They each owned this the cow at one point, and so the court can't just say that okay, we're not paskening here. However, when in our case, when is Zer Mishalavesai or Zer Mishalavesai, it's possible that one of them never owned it. One of their fathers never owned it. This one says it was my father. This was my father. We don't. If it belongs to him, then it didn't belong to him. If it belonged to him, it didn't belong to him. So therefore, here it's a different type of doubt. It's a doubt that one side possibly has no basis at all. So because it's that one side has no basis at all, then the court doesn't mind saying, well, we don't know which side that is, and we're not getting involved. When each side has a stronger claim, then the court has to get involved to determine. But when each side doesn't have such a strong, when there's one side that possibly doesn't have any claim at all, so then the court doesn't get involved, and they say, Kol Dalam Gvar. Yeah, that's why back to Shnai Meichs and Metalis, we don't say Kol Dalam Gvar. Each one is holding it. They're walking into Beis and holding it. You're not going to say Kol Dalam Gvar over there. When you say Shuda de Daini there, by the way, that's the Taisvis on the first page of Baba Metzia, goes through every possible other halacha that we could say in the case of the two people holding onto the talis. It goes through each of these possibilities.
Russia, Ukraine.
So what is it?
International disputes. So say I owned it 100 years ago. I owned it 200 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So
is that what they're claiming? That each one's claiming that historically each one owned it at a different time.
Oh, some of my people live in your land,
Oh.
therefore it's my land. The guy says, "I'll kill you anyway." And if you say to let the stronger terminate, then you fight it out and you destroy each other.
Uh-huh.
The Palestinians say this is our land, or make up a story, and the other people say, from belief, God gave it to us.
We have the official deed.
We have the deed.
So at the end of Lamed Dalet, the halakha was, they shouldn't have, the basin shouldn't have taken the thing in the first place. Right?
Correct.
So this is like that. They shouldn't, if there's no real proof, they shouldn't get involved in the first place.
Along the same lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Rav Yehuda. Late of Sinan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the logic here. Yeah, the Rashbam at the end of the Dibra Maskal Hassam, like right in the middle of the page, the Rashbam on Lamed Hey, he says, Hilkach, Ein Bezdin Niskakan Lem Ladan Din Shesayfe Lavil De Ibas. The Bezdin doesn't get involved in something that later on is going to turn into a corruption. Elaminicha, so we just leave it. Chol Dalam Gvar. You just let them fight it out. We don't get involved. Okay. Amin Nardai. It's getting at this discussion of Kol Dalam Gvar. It's very unique that the Torah should say that just you let people fight. So it says in Ba'echan Menashuk Bechzik Nardai says that if a third party comes into the fight and grabs the item that they're arguing over, the land that they're arguing over, then we don't take it away from him, even though he wasn't even part of this. We don't have who to take it away and give it to. And the reason for this is the Tani Reb Chia, because Reb Chia taught Gazlan Shal Rabim Lav Shmei Gazlan. If someone steals from the public and we don't have who to give it back to, so he's not considered a thief. Now, what he means he's not considered a thief is that we can't force him to extract it from him because we don't have the owner that it's supposed to go to. Ravashi Amar Ravashi says Leilam Shmei Gazlan. What does it mean he's not considered a thief? No, he is considered a thief. What did he mean? What did Reb Chia say? Leish Shmei Gazlan. He meant my Leish Shmei Gazlan Shlei Nitli Shavan, because we can't return it. Yeah, we're not going to extract it from this third party just to give it to two people to fight over it. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. We go back to the Mishnah. We finished like a lot of discussion over here about Chazaka. And now the Mishnah says that anything that produces fruits constantly for 3 years, then the Chazaka, assumed ownership, is going to take 3 years. Gemara now says it's not so simple. Amar Rababa. Rababa says, "Idoli leiu gufei tzani tzana deperi laltar v'chazaka." If you see there's two people that are arguing over this property, there's an original owner that says to this new guy that says, "What are you doing in my property?" Right? So the guy says, "Well, I was here 3 years. I bought it from you. I was here 3 years. I don't have a document." So that would take 3 years in order for him to say that the reason why I don't have the document is because you didn't say anything for 3 years and I didn't know I had to keep it. You were quiet for 3 years. However, this could also be done much quicker than 3 years. And that would be is that if we have witnesses that the purchaser of the property is in the property, and we see that the original owner is helping him get produce onto his shoulders, or to carry it out, we see that the original owner is actually agreeing that the produce belongs to the purchaser. We have witnesses to that, so obviously he bought it. What about the document?
Could be just rough produce.
That's a good point. You'll see in a second. Now, Rabbi Hananel has another shot here, that if we see the opposite, if we see the purchaser giving it as a gift to the original owner, then obviously it belongs to the purchaser. He's giving him as a gift.
We had an example about the two rooms at Potter, and they were both living in the house.
Right. Right. We want to say that it's not a chazaka because the guy is here. So let's see in a second. Amar Rav Zvid said, V'imton v'amar, Rav Zvid says that if the original owner says, I didn't ever sold it to him, Lepeter seradativ, I brought him down just because he was going to eat the fruits of the property. Maybe it was a sharecropper, or maybe I sold him just the produce, like Eli's saying, or Hillel's saying. That how do you know that he owns the property? Maybe just he bought some produce for 10 years or something like that. So so Rav Zvid said that if that's what he's claiming, then yes, that would be a good claim. We're talking about before where he wasn't claiming that. He was claiming that, no, the property is mine. I don't know what you're doing in the property. So then that would mess him up. He's being greedy. He wants everything. So then he ends up losing everything. This would only be that he would be believed to say, according to Rav Zvid, that he can say that no, this purchaser was here only because he purchased the produce, not because he purchased the property. He would only believe to say that during the 3 years. But if the person was there for 3 years, then you can't say that's not a good claim. In other words, if someone's in a property for 3 years, so what are you doing here? He says, well, I bought it. And they say, where's the document? They say, well, I don't have the document anymore. I was here for so long. No one ever said anything. I'm not holding it anymore. So the guy will then say, well, maybe you only came for produce. So that's not going to work. That's not a good claim now. After 3 years, you can't claim that.
How does someone who the original owner of the property before the label? Is there a document in there also? Doesn't have that. That's like a whole thing that you might
Right.
want to get it.
Right. That would require witnesses. Yeah. See over there, property was sold. So when you sell a property, there's already witnesses attesting to the sale and all of that.
Well, if they
So
passed away,
if they
it's been
passed
50
away, then it
years.
would be right. Then that would be complicated. You have to find older witnesses that are still around. So, Amar lei Rav Ashi le Rav Kana. Rav Ashi says to Rav Kana, 1 second. If there's a guy that's in a field for more than 3 years, and the reason why he's in the field is because he purchased the fruit. He was an artist, or he purchased the fruit but he never bought the field. So he's there for more than 3 years. And you told me that he can now claim that he purchased the entire property, not just the produce. And the original owner can't say that you only came here for the fruit. So he says to him, if that's actually the fact, that he came only to eat the produce, then what do you want the original owner to do? That he shouldn't make this amazing claim that he owns the whole property. So he says, Amalei. So he responds, Rav Kana says to Rav Ashi, Rav Kana was the teacher. He says, he can protest. Within the first 3 years, he should make a protest. He should say that I want everyone to know, in front of 2 witnesses, that this person that's here is only here because he's eating fruit. It's not because he owns the land. If you don't say that it's possible to make a protest, this is like a partial protest. I'm not protesting you on being here. You're allowed to be here, but I am protesting that you should never make a claim that you own the land. That if you don't say that you can do this, then Hani Mashkanta Desura, the Kosaba Mishlam Shniya Elaine, Tepikara double Kesef. When there's a Mashkanta Desura, that was a collateral that was given to someone that had a debt, that was a creditor of a debt, that we would deduct from the debt per year, how long, a certain amount every year, so that it should like eat off the loan. It should deduct from the loan. So with the rabbis, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, a mortgage is you're actually paying every month. Here, you're just the opposite. You're putting the guy that you're putting the bank into the house for 10 years till the loan is gone, and then you get the house. Then you get it back. The security. Mashkanta de Surah, it's a security, but it's a security that comes along with that you every year that the person's there, he deducts from it. So how could the rabbis institute this? It's possible for the person that's in the property, if he's there for more than 3 years, he could say, Lakuchi biyadi, achinami de meheman, and he would be believed. Masakni rabban midi dasil de pseida, would the rabbis institute something that would later on come to be a loss? Rather, it's not necessarily going to be a loss. The person has to make a protest within the first 3 years that I know you're in the property, but you're not here to stay. You're only here because you're here eating the produce. The same thing would apply in our case as well, even if it's not a mashkanta de surah, maybe just purchase produce. Rav Yehuda says, name of Rav. Let's say there's a Jew that he's in the property for 3 years. And we're talking about what's that first word? Requisition? Through acquisition. What happened was that a Jew owned the property. A non-Jew purchased the property. And the Jew purchased the property from the non-Jew. And the problem is that when the Jew says that I bought it, who do you buy it from? So you bought it from the non-Jew. Now, the non-Jew doesn't have a document, but the non-Jew is there for 3 years. So we say, oh, then it should be the non-Jews, because he's there for 3 years, no document, he doesn't need a document. So there's a slight problem with this. It goes like this. We don't allow this rule. You see, how does the chazaka work? The chazaka works because the fact that the original owner didn't protest, that tells me that the purchaser is the real owner, because if it wasn't his, he would have protested. And so since no one protested, that's why he didn't watch the document, because he assumes that it's his. However, when there's a non-Jew that's in there, it's possible that the original owner didn't protest because he's afraid of the non-Jew. He couldn't protest. He was afraid to protest. So the fact that the non-Jew was here for 3 years is not a real proof that it belongs to the non-Jew. It could be that the Jew really wanted to protest the whole time, but he just couldn't. He was afraid of him. So now when a Jew purchases it from him, so he has a chazaka she'eni matayna. You got it from someone, but who says that it really belonged to that person that you got it from? Maybe it was never his. So ma'akamin l'chazaka l'bishtar, the non-Jew would need a document. You would need to have a document, or the document of the non-Jew, to prove that it was really that who you purchased it from was actually owned it. Amar Rava says about this. Now, if you would have witnesses, okay, we'll see in a second. Rava will spell it out. If the Jew says, if the Jew says that the non-Jew told me that he bought it from you, then mehemen, then he's believed. Umar says, 1 second. 1 second. If the non-Jew says that he bought it, we don't believe him. We say, where's the document? Now, if the Jew says that the non-Jew told me, now we're going to believe him? How could that work? The non-Jew himself, we wouldn't believe. And the Jew that's coming only with the backing of the non-Jew telling him, we're going to believe the Jew? Yeah.
That would be like the potential buyer, but to confirming the sale.
Yeah, but he's saying that the non-Jew told me.
But I don't think the Jew would like confirm something that wasn't.
So the
Like,
Jew
well,
saying
that's
that the
what we
non-Jew
have.
told me, why should we believe him? We didn't believe the non-Jew when he said it. Now we're going to believe the Jew that says that the non-Jew said it. So maybe we'll believe him that he said it, but that we didn't trust the non-Jew.
Confirm I sold it to the non-Jew.
No,
And then they
you're
give
going
the
back
deed.
to the Jew. And we're talking about that there's no deed, right? There's no document. And the non-Jew told the Jew that it's that he bought it from the Jew.
I understand that as the Jew goes back to the other Jew.
No, no. So that's the Gemara's question. How could you trust him if the non-Jew himself wouldn't have been believed? Now you're saying that you trust him because yeah. This is like there was this kashrus thing where it was they needed a certain type of cheese in a restaurant. So this restaurant was under one hechsher. So the cheese was under a hechsher that this one didn't trust. So he says, can we get the cheese from this and this hechsher? They said, no, we don't use that hechsher. So he calls up another hechsher, and he says, do you trust that? So yeah, they said, well, just put your label on it. And he calls back the first one. He says, do you trust that hechsher? He says, yeah, that hechsher we trust. He takes it from him. Basically, the same story. But the problem is, if you don't trust the first one, so how do you trust the one that's claiming that it was good? Okay. Elama Rava, so Rava says, Yamar Yisrael Kamidi Dizavna Akaminach, Bezavnali Mehaman. That's not what happened. What Rava really said was that if the Jew says, that this talking about the purchaser, the Jew, says that the non-Jew bought it in front of me from you, from the original Jewish owner, then he's believed. Because if he wanted, he could have said, I purchased it directly from you. He was there 3 years, and he's claiming that he purchased it directly. You don't even need a document, right? If you're in a property for 3 years and no one protested, and then you don't have a document, it's yours. You would be able to, if you had the right claim, if you said I purchased it from you. He could have said I purchased it from you, from the Jew. He says, no, I purchased it from the non-Jew. But it was in front of me that the non-Jew purchased it from you. So then we're going to trust him that really happened, because he could have said a much easier claim. What, that the property is his?
No, like he says that, he bought it in front of me. So then like that he could buy it from the non-Jew.
He bought it from the non-Jew.
Yeah, but he's also like the witness of the sale between the Jew and the non-Jew.
Well,
Like before they put the whole rent, which was convenient for that owner to be the owner, because then he would have to repay the rent to the other.
he has a migu that he could have said I bought it directly from you. Right? Because of that. Yeah, we're not saying that he's the witness. We're saying he was a witness. Right? Okay. Have a good day. Dr. Stein, you'll take over tomorrow. Is that good?